The Auburn Tigers are set to head to Cameron Indoors to take on the Duke Blue Devils. You know we got to talk about it. Let's go straight into the town.
The Auburn Express. You are now listening to the War Rapport Longtown Podcast with your boy Ike Jones.
The Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, right here, Lobtown, talking a little Auburn versus Duke basketball. Cameron Indoor Stadium set to the Duke Blue Devils set to host the Auburn Tigers. Auburn is currently undefeated on the season, 7-0, already been battle tested. Duke had a couple of tough games that they lost versus some highly ranked teams, but we'll talk about all of that stuff. If you're in here, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, share the content. I know we're just getting started, but trust me, you're going to love what we got to talk about here. Auburn versus Duke. If you're a Duke fan, welcome. And hopefully you have some good things to say about your team. Let's get straight into the head-to-head between these two teams and just kind of look at statistically where these two teams stack up, and then we'll get more into the game itself. Auburn is coming into this game right now doing a really good job offensively, being able to put up points, 86 points per game, and Duke at 80 points per game. It looks like, oh man, Auburn scored more points per game, but Duke is a high-powered offense itself. The defenses, though, this is really going to be an interesting matchup of two defenses that have done a good job. Duke only allowing 58.6 points per game so far this season. Auburn allowing just south of 67 points per game. The field goal percentage for Auburn is above 50%, 52.5. Duke shooting just below 47% at 46.3. Rebounding edge goes to Duke as far as rebounds per game. Duke is a good offensive rebounding team, but 41.3 total rebounds per game to Auburn's 37.3. A lot of that has to do with the volume of shots that Duke is getting up and possessions they're getting in the game as well. Assists nod to Auburn, 18.4 versus 17.4 for Duke. 6 rebounds per game for Auburn, block shots per game for Auburn versus 4.1 blocks for Duke. And Duke leading in steals, 9.3 steals per game. This is a team that's going to come out and try to get the ball, those live ball turnovers, force those and get out in transition. ESPN's matchup predictor has Duke winning this game, 65.9% chance that Duke comes with the win. John Shire out there in his in this season has had the Duke Blue Devils in position to make some big wins. They just haven't been able to close those games late. So it's going to be interesting to see, again, both battle-tested teams, but Auburn, unlike last year's Auburn team, has done a good job of being able to close basketball games and finish off in the second half. In fact, coming with some big comebacks versus the major opponents that they've had thus far that have been top teams. The North Carolina game, that was pretty much a wire-to-wire victory for Auburn, but when you look at the Houston and the Iowa State games, when you look at the teams, Houston and Iowa State composed very similarly as far as their very defensive-minded teams. They're more Iowa State than they are Houston. But trying to get out in the passing lanes, really extend the pressure, and really want to be able to control the guards in this game. So it's going to be interesting from a physicality standpoint. I don't want to call Duke less physical, but I think Iowa State's just a more physical team, I think, in general, than Duke is from watching some of the film that they have. But Duke is going to be a team that's really going to try to get out into the passing lanes. They're athletic, and they really want to be able to play some small ball and defend and extend the pressure. So it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Bruce Pearl decides to combat that. They have the clear advantage on the inside from big man standpoint, but it's going to be interesting to see, again, how Coach Pearl and his staff decide to attack this Duke team that really doesn't have a post presence. They've got size, they got height, but they don't really have guys that bang physically on the inside with you. When you look at the stat leaders for both of these teams, it is the Cooper Flagg and Janai Broome show for sure. Right now, the leader in pretty much every statistical category for Auburn is Janai Broome, other than steals per game, oddly enough, which is Dylan Cardwell. And then the reverse there for Duke. Cooper Flag, well, not the reverse, but similarly for Duke, Cooper Flag leads in every statistical category except for steals, and that goes to Malik Brown there for Duke. So it's going to be which superstar, it seems, is going to step up the most when you look at kind of the composition of the lineups here for both teams. You're going to see kind of a guard heavy lineup here look for Duke. Cooper Flag, though he is a power forward for this team at 6'9", is really more of a stretch for guard type. Malowich is really the only true big man that they have in that starting lineup at 7'2". So he's got the height, but he is really more of a space eater than he is a productive person for this team. I mean, he's averaging right now. Let's take a look at kind of the stat line for that young man. He's averaging 5 rebounds per game and not even a block per game, just south of 1 block per game. So at 7'2", I mean, he is more of a deterrent than a true shot blocker. So again, on the interior, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the matchups are like. Dylan Cardwell likely will be the guy to guard him offensively, but will they switch and put him on Broom on the interior, as Broom is the better post guy? I'm not sure Cooper Flag is ready to take that assignment on the interior. So it will be very interesting to see how these starting lineups go and how they decide to attack one another with the different lineups and the different advantages that they have. When you think about this Duke team, again, they want to extend pressure and they really want to get out in transition. They want to get up and down the floor, really get into pace. And Auburn doesn't mind playing pace, but I think Auburn, the key for me in this is going to be the Auburn transition game. Are they able to make Duke play out of the set half court? Because they've struggled a little bit this year to run their half court stuff. They run a lot of that 5-out stuff. Again, very similar to Iowa State in the way that they're composed, like that, little less physicality on the interior. They're going to run a lot of 5-out, and they're going to try to pull the shot blockers away from the rim and really try to operate in downhill drives, backdoor cuts, and things of that nature with some of the motion that they do along the exterior of their offense. And so the challenge for Auburn is going to be making them go against that set defense and not allowing them to get points in transition. So that means Auburn's got to limit their live ball turnovers. Now, Auburn's done a decent job this year in live ball turnovers, but they need to do an extremely good job in a very hostile road environment for Auburn to be able to do this. The first true road game, even though we know that Houston game was a road game, first true road game for Auburn so far this season in the actual opponent's home arena. Let's take a look at the two teams comparatively. When you look at the Auburn defense, you look at a team that is giving up 66 0.6 field goal percentage. So doing a really good job of forcing teams into being able to not get what they want all the time on the defensive side of things. The free throw percentage, when you look at the field goal percentage, 42.8%. So doing a good job of not allowing teams to really get good looks at the basket on the interior. 33.9% three-pointer percentage given up. Not great, but something that they've really had some good luck in some of these games. Like Iowa State came out really hot early versus them. Houston didn't shoot the ball particularly great from deep. Memphis, they did a good job of guarding there. So this team in Duke is going to want to shoot the three. You see they're shooting 36.1%, and that's probably going to look even better at home for them. Turnover percentage, both teams, Duke turns the ball over about as much as Auburn forces the turnovers. As far as percent of possessions that end in a turnover, Auburn's going to need to really ratchet that number up. I think the number of turnovers they want to be able to force in this game is going to be need to be north of 15 to really try to extend and get a good lead in this game. So I'm interested to see how Auburn is able to force Duke into some difficult shots and some turnovers and get them, even if it's not live ball. I think Auburn's half-court offense is good enough where this season, and that's something I couldn't say previously, this season I think Auburn's half-court offense is good enough where they don't need transition to generate points. They've been doing a good job in the half-court. Off and on, it gets a little stagnant sometimes when teams go into zone and force them to think about shooting those perimeter shots, and they take them a little too willingly. But when Auburn's really working it versus the zone and really being able to work their half-court man offense, then they've been fairly efficient this year. Let's flip it over to the other side and take a look at that offense. Again, Auburn scoring almost 87 points per game, but Duke defensively not giving it up a lot, right? So they're doing a really good job of making sure teams are not getting north of 60 points out there. And Teams are shooting fairly well on the free throw line against them. Auburn's going to need to shoot free throws well in this game. I will stress again, the interior defense for Duke versus Janai Broome is going to be an interesting thing. How are they going to do that? And is Janai Broome going to get the calls in this game that allow him to get to the free throw line? And if he does, is he going to be able to convert there? Auburn doing a stellar job on the interior, 65.7% from two. So doing a really good job of getting quality baskets and converting those on the interior, shooting 36% from three, which is a good clip, but Duke is only given 27.5%. Again, they have a lot of quick guard like, so they can run you off of that 3-point line pretty well. They've done a good job of that this season, making sure that teams do not get quality looks from three. It's going to be on the interior that they're going to have to get the advantage. Get the 7'2" guy out of there, get them into their smaller lineups, let your big guys dominate on the interior, whether that's Janai Broome or Chaney Johnson coming off of the bench, maybe even seeing a little bit of Jaheim Hudson in this game, being able to come in and give you some more paint touches. As far as turnovers are concerned, you can see the turnover percentage there for Duke, 21.3% turnover rate. This is a team that feeds off of being able to get out in transition and being able to get their stops and then push the pace. Auburn's going to have to take care of the basketball in this one to come out with the victory. So in terms of this game, again, I think the key matchup is how does Duke defend the paint? They're going to need to be scrappy. They're likely going to do a lot of double teaming because they can recover fairly well. The high-low stuff where they're pulling Janai Broome up to the high post and allowing the opposite forward slash big man or front court player that's playing opposite him to be in that dunker position or be able to dive to the rim. You saw that a little bit versus Memphis against the double teams, and Janai Broome passing effectively out of that. Going to be super important for him to make good decisions out of the double team. I fully expect this Duke team to double team Janai Broome early in this game to try to force the ball out of his hand. So what is Auburn going to do to combat that? And then on the other side of that, how is Auburn going to guard Cooper Flagg and really run Duke off of the 3-point line and force them into some shot blockers that need to be practice verticality in this game, because this Duke offensive players are going to try to get them in foul trouble so that they can get that advantage, because they do have a slight disadvantage when it comes to being able to play in the post versus Auburn. So going to be important for Auburn to figure out what is because again, this offense kind of runs through Cooper Flagg. He does a lot of this stuff for them offensively. It doesn't always come in the form of scoring. So how is Auburn going to play to bother him? In the post, are they going to start double teaming him to try to force the ball out of his hands, force that freshman to make good decisions there at home in front of his home crowd? Or are they going to play it straight up because they feel like they have the matchup to be able to do that? I expect Cooper Flagg, if he's going to draw the assignment of Chad Baker-Mazar, to take him down there in the post, because he does have a height advantage, a little bit of a size advantage. Chad is a good defender. Chaney Johnson, when he comes into the game, I think is a little bit better matchup from a physicality and athleticism standpoint. Going to be interesting to see how the defensive matchup changes when Chaney Johnson is in the game there for the Auburn Tigers. But anyway, that's all I have to say to you all. What I want to know now is, what are your thoughts on the game? Who do you think wins? What do you think the score is going to be? Drop those right down there in the comment section. Let me hear all of that. Before you get out of here, make sure that you're doing the things necessary. Share this content with somebody. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll be right back here after the game to react to what's going on or what happened in this game. But y'all know who I am. I'm your guy, Ike Jones. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.